Tech is not just about tapping a keyboard. I know, startling. We have the processes, the people, the customers, and the products. And getting those final two, the customers and the product, to connect is not what geeks have done their finest working, to be fair. And so this fantastic interview with Lou Draper from Loud in Public, it's a publicity firm that's taken on a lot of tech startups recently, is full of hints and tips about how to get your product stories out there. Listen up. Well, hi everybody. Today we are in our first cafe, and of course we'd be in a cafe because we're with Lou Draper, who is going to be talking PR, tech PR with us. Hi Lou, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Can you give us a wee bit of intro to yourself and tell us where you're from and what you do?
Sure. So I'm a publicist. I'm not a PR, as a lot of people tend to call it. They say, oh, you're a PR. PR actually stands for public relations, and so the role of a person who works in public relations is actually a publicist. There are a number of different types of people who work under the umbrella of PR, comms managers, writers, creatives, all that sort of stuff, but I'm a publicist, and what that means is I get you in the media, into the newspaper, onto the television, onto the radio, onto wonderful podcasts like this.
Nice plug.
Yes.
Loving it.
And
Cool.
That's my role.
Hey look, I've already learned something.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So she's not a PR.
She's not
she's
a PR. That's like saying
PR.
you are the tech.
That's
is it?
right.
That's like saying you are IT.
That's right, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. Now, some people don't like the term publicist, especially overseas. In the US, they do not like it. I think it's because it has quite a negative connotation of, being a spin doctor or someone who just makes a whole lot of shit up that's not true. And in some cases, people do that. But in the tech scene, it is really all about truth.
So how, I know you were initially, I nearly said it, a PR, a publicist, based up in Auckland, and you moved down to Wellington a year or so ago?
No, how about 4 years ago?
4 years ago. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And we've met you through, of course, the tech scene. This is why we're talking to you on this tech podcast. But you didn't do that up in Auckland?
No. So I was a lifestyle publicist in Auckland. I had an agency called Rockstar PR, and that was all about fashion, booze, shoes, beauty, all that kind of stuff. I like to call it fluffy kind of stuff. And it was very different to what I'm doing now. So
yes, and now tell us what you do. It is very different, isn't it?
Very different. So now, of course, I'm working with a lot of tech companies, and that's largely because I'm in Wellington, and Wellington is the tech hub of New Zealand, and you can say that there is a tech hub in Auckland, but it will never be the same as what's down here. So that's why I'm now working in tech, and I've been doing this tech kind of work for about 7 months now, and it's brilliant. It's really expanding my mind, which is good.
Excellent.
So what do you find the differences are in terms of the tech scene in Auckland and in Wellington?
Well, I don't know, because I haven't done any tech work in Auckland at all. I've only just started doing tech work down here. But I think people are more serious down here than in Auckland. I think people like the idea of a startup and the idea of creating this wonderful thing that's going to make them a millionaire. But down here, I think it's people do it because they're passionate about it, because they've been, perhaps coding in their bedroom for, their whole life, and they're making what they've done their whole life into a job and into a career and into, wealth, perhaps.
Hopefully. So, shoes and booze, and then tech publicist. What's the challenges of being a tech publicist, and particularly in Wellington?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so the challenges that I've had is actually being able to understand what all of you are talking about.
The lingo?
The lingo.
All the lingo.
The lingo, yeah. You talk about different coding languages, you talk about all sorts of stuff that just, it doesn't compute into my brain. If you talk about lipstick, well, I can tell you 50,000 different shades. And if you're talking about shoes, well, yeah, I know all about that. That's really easy. And I think the biggest challenge is that because I've got personal experience with lipstick, shoes and booze and fashion, it's a lot easier for me to be able to identify with that, as opposed to tech, which I've got an iPhone and I've got an iPad, and there's a whole bunch of apps on there, and they go, and that's brilliant.
It's a start.
But, that's about as far as it goes.
Do you think that's a challenge? I mean, obviously a personal challenge to get your head around the geek speak, but is there also a challenge that the tech companies they don't tell their story very well because that's the language they generally use.
Yeah, absolutely. So I met one company a couple of months ago, and he wasn't able to tell me what his business did or what the story was or what it was about. He could tell me all of the technical functions of it and how it operated internally, but not actually, this is my business, this is what it does, this is how it benefits my future customers. And I think until tech startups and organisations can nail that, they don't really have a hope of being able to get publicity around what they're doing.
Yeah.
So you can't just have a great idea, you need to be able to articulate it.
Absolutely.
Out to the market.
Absolutely.
Well, tell the story put yourself into the customer's point of view and tell their story with your product, as opposed to, I've got 9 buttons and one's green and it does this.
Yeah, that's exactly
Using
it.
.NET.
Yes.
Yeah, or whatever.
.NET, so I've learned a lot about .NET. Apparently there's not many people who can do .NET stuff, and if they are, they've all been taken by a big organisation in Wellington. Apparently.
0!
Is it 0?
0!
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're in Microsoft Shop, I'm sure. They're taking everybody, mate, don't worry.
Really?
every skill set you can think of, they've probably got.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Every single client, potential customer, anyone that I catch up with, after we've talked about stories and communications and PR, they all say, look, Lou, you're probably not going to know this, but do you have anyone that you know of that can do .NET, that can do XML, that can do blah, 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 blah? And I just look at them blankly and go, no, but I'll find them, because that's what I do.
Just letters of the alphabet until you know what it does.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So how did you then, you've been here for 4 years and then tech came along into your life. Mm-hmm. How did you make that transition? Now, in my mind, I've got 50 coffees approach that you do. Do you want to explain
50
what
coffees.
50 coffees was?
50 coffees. Okay, so there is a gentleman in LA, Peter, I've forgotten his last name, sorry, Peter. He came up with this concept in business that when you start a new business, if you start it or make any major changes, you need to discuss that change with 50 people, take them out for coffee and get their feedback on what it is that you want to do and get their insight, and then see if that's still the path that you want to take. And I thought, well, that's cool, I could do that, but to really meet people and expand my network, because I'm new in Wellington and I know everyone in Auckland, but I know like 5 people in Wellington, so I really need to be able to do that. And in terms of building my business, well, I'm not going to discuss every single change because Wellington just isn't big enough and people will get really sick of me soon. So I'll use it as building a network and being able to meet people. And I think because 90% of the businesses in Wellington who I've been meeting with are all in the tech space, it was apparent that there was a need for some tech PR.
So you didn't go, tech is the thing. You met people, and then that drew you towards it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Fascinating.
Yeah. When I first moved to Wellington, I mean, I was here and I took maternity leave, but when I first moved here, I was doing the PR for 2 big bars in Wellington. So it really was that I'd moved here and was still trying to pull all of my lifestyle, boo, shoes, fashion kind of PR skill with me, but it wasn't to be.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, picking out in your mind, and not naming any names unless you want to, can you name or give an example of a great success of a tech company that's done great publicity?
Oh my goodness me. One of my biggest wins, I think it's probably better if I speak in wins rather than in singling one particular business
Sure,
out.
absolutely.
Probably early this year, I put a pitch in through to One News, and what it actually turned out, the story was a good story, and the reporter, he's very, very talented, and he managed to actually pull out 3 of my clients at the same time, who were all related in the one story, and it went up on the main One News, which was absolutely brilliant. But it was so cool to be able to see the collaboration of 3 quite different clients, all in the same story, all working together to get the same goal. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So I think that's probably one of my biggest wins that I thought was brilliant.
And that's an example, or is it, of everyone talks about in Wellington Tech that the collaboration and the community.
Yeah.
Is that what happened, or was that just pure chance?
No, absolutely. They all each knew each other. They were all either they'd worked on a project before together somewhere somehow. They were all joined. It wasn't just 3 separate strangers who were doing the same thing. but the very talented reporter managed to just pull it all out of all three of them, and I just thought,
That's awesome.
yeah, it's really, really cool. I've not seen collaboration done quite that way in a story, because generally speaking, when you've got the media attention, you really want to lap it all up for yourself, not share it with everybody else. But in the case of this story, it worked beautifully.
They shared the limelight together.
They totally did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was high fives all round. It was brilliant.
Okay, and so go back to the other one, which
What's
is
your second question? I've forgotten.
the biggest learnings that people can take. So things that you would say, oh, I've seen this happen so many times and no one learns, this is not the way to go.
Oh, okay.
See the same problem over and
And
over.
you may have an hour and a half on this, pick the top three, something along those lines.
Sending a press release to a cast of thousands will get you nowhere. So if you write a press release and then you look and get the editor's name from a newspaper and another editor's name from another paper and perhaps a TV station or whatever, and you send your one email saying, here is my news, please print it, that will get deleted straight away. There is no angle there, there is no pitch, there is no relationship, it will just get deleted. So don't do that.
So what's the best way to go about sort of doing that then?
Message out.
Instead of sending a bunch of people this muppet little email
Yeah.
that means nothing to anybody,
Yeah.
how can they get in front of these guys and motivate people to talk about them?
Okay, so if you don't want to hire a publicist, because, surprisingly you don't have to do that, but you do have to have a relationship, and you do have to have a really good story, and you also have to figure out whether now is the right time for you to use up your in, I suppose. Is that media outlets won't write about you twice. It has to be a completely different story. So as long as you've got your proposition sorted, perhaps you've been through a round of funding already, perhaps you've got some customers on board, you've got some stories, you've got to have a really good story to be able to share with the media, otherwise they won't care.
Decent angle. Some sort of decent
Absolutely,
angle.
yeah. And it has to relate to people. You can't just say, I've built an app and it's good and it benefits me because, well, it's, I'll make money off it. It's really got to link back to how it does help people that you've built it for.
That's right.
I can imagine most geeks, that's not how they think. It's like,
No.
Yeah.
look.
Mate, this is awesome. Everyone should use it.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know.
Because I want it.
Yeah. So you think people operate on a much different level than much different. Gosh, my English is wonderful today.
It's the differentest level. That's what it'll be, the most differentest level.
Oh my goodness. That's so funny.
It's cold today.
It's
We
cold.
understand.
Yeah.
Much different.
You talked there briefly, we mentioned about timing and context.
Yeah.
And this is probably the skill, and it's a bit like saying, how do you make that secret sauce? But how do you know when it's good timing and the context of what's happening in the...
Well, given the recent tragedies of last week, so for example, you're not going to pitch a journalist who is covering, tragic events, because that's not going to be the right time. And actually, events like that mean it's not the right time for anyone to be talking about your business or your product. Nobody cares. Everyone really wants to know about what's happening in this tragic circumstance. The thing with the election also is that does minimise your chances of getting coverage as well. But once you have actually got the coverage, it's about what you do with it once you've got it. You can't just have it in the paper or have it on a show or whatever and then expect that that's going to mean your customers will come flooding in. You have to share it to different markets, you have to get blog posts about it, you have to talk to people. You've really got to use it as ammunition rather than just relying on, I had an article in the paper and now I'm awesome.
So a strategy rather than just a one-tier approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Share it.
Maybe
far
use
and
a
wide.
local podcast to help promote your...
Yeah, a local podcast.
Just
There's one
saying.
called Access Granted, which is pretty good. I
Is that
guess.
right? Oh, yeah. We can talk to those geezers.
Geezers, I think that's the phrase.
Jesus, nice.
So we fell into this, my old company, Waveadept. We fell definitely into the... We had the story that was relevant. It was
Relevant to who?
To the audience.
Right.
So it was about people, about New Zealand. That was all grand, and we did that, and we got picked up very easily. But to be fair, we didn't know what next. We sort of went, oh! We printed it. I think we put it in a frame, and then we carried on, thinking that was nice. So is that something that you set up and you help businesses with?
Absolutely. What happens with your publicity once you've got it? How do you utilise that to the best of your ability? You know, one thing that you can do, which not many people do in New Zealand, overseas they do it all the time. When you get covered by the Dom Post, by the New Zealand Herald, by Idealog, by New Zealand Business Magazine, it's one of my favourite magazines. When you get that coverage, send a note to the editor, thank them profusely for that coverage, ask them if you can take a copy of their logo and pop it on your website somewhere prominent to say, as seen in XYZ magazine's titles, and you can even link, so when they click on those things, they can link to the coverage, or even better, link back to, you know, the magazine's site, or the, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, so that then it goes both ways. People can actually go, okay, cool, I'm going to have a look at what this coverage is all about. Put it somewhere prominent.
Great idea.
basic
Editors
stuff.
would love it. I'm just getting clicks coming through. That's all good.
Absolutely. And otherwise, if you hide it, then, you know, it's gone, isn't it?
Then it's not publicity.
No.
So we've talked previously, not on here, but you know, challenges of mainstream media at the moment, and getting tech stories in front of, I don't know, editors or journalists. Where are you at with that thinking?
Right, okay. So one thing that's really good to note is that when you email a editor for anything, your email is actually unsolicited. They do not have to respond to you. They won't, and don't get angry if they don't, because it's not their job to reply to your plea emails about covering me. So I think it's probably getting your attitude right in how you deal with the media is number one lesson. That's not the answer to your question. What did you ask?
That was interesting, though. Quite like it.
No. Mate, this is probably the most tip-ridden interview we've ever had.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going, okay, didn't do that. Damn, didn't do that. Got to do that next time. Didn't do that.
I've just got all the words that I want to say, and I'm not even going to listen to what you're asking me. Sorry.
So that's what PR's all about. I got it now.
PRist. You're a PRist.
You will listen to every goddamn word I have to say.
Fair enough. No, it was
Working.
the change in mainstream media and the way that they are,
Yeah.
and the way that a publicist like yourself needs to connect with them, because their world is shrinking, their priorities are changing, the way that they deal
The
with...
world isn't shrinking, it's changing.
Okay.
You just got schooled there,
There are
right?
less staff at Fairfax than there were a year ago, by about 4,000 people.
Yeah.
That's a shrinking world, isn't it?
Well, yes, but then we're going to get on to the whole... oh gosh, I don't even know if I want to say all this now.
We can edit this out.
Yeah.
If it's good, we won't. We'll just tell you that we did.
Okay.
Don't give away everything.
I think it's about really focusing on the audience and the people that you want to hear your story, rather than putting a huge emphasis on the mainstream media. They are taking less stories, that is true. They are only taking stories that are absolutely excellent, and in fact Australia and everywhere else in the world, you have the way that you write for these particular outlets overseas, you have to write in such a way that it is almost mirrors the way that the journalist writes, so that when they take your information, they can mould it more to how they write.
There's less
That
work.
doesn't
Once
make-
they get it, it's less work for them to put it into a newsworthy
but the reason
format.
why
right?
there's less work is because if you are lucky enough to have your pitch actually read and considered, you know, that is one of a million. Places in Australia, they might receive thousands of pitches a day. Thousands. New Zealand media, hundreds. So you can understand why they don't get back to you all the time.
It has to be something extremely compelling, right?
It absolutely has to be, yeah.
Otherwise they keep reporting on dolphins. So.
Well, someone's doing a good job in the dolphin world.
Is there a dolphin section?
There must be a dolphin section.
Dolphins.
Dolphins, oh, that's what it's called. Dolphins and planes. So
So yes, the media is changing. You have to adapt to the way that they are changing. It's certainly not dying. Print is not dying. It is just changing. So I think I don't want to get myself into too much hot water over that.
doing it for yourself, which is, I suppose, most tech companies, particularly tech companies, because it's the thing that they know, would have their own blog. Is that a way? Is that effective? Is that a way of doing it?
Yeah, definitely. Blogs are brilliant because you can get your thoughts down, you can get your news down, you can do whatever you like. And as long as you write well, people will follow your blog and they're interested to see what you're talking about next. There is one company that I've worked with in the past who have a brilliant blog. That's amazing, but they're not my client anymore, so I'm not gonna pitch them.
Fair enough. No.
No publicity for you.
No publicity for you. You're not my client.
That's right. But then there's the challenge, I suppose, of the mainstream media still have the audience, the generic general audience, and then there's it's easy for me to put this up, but I don't have the audience on my blog. It's I suppose, a changing, challenging world where it's all in flux.
You have to share your content. You can't just have a blog and just keep on blogging and not telling anyone about it. You really do have to share it, and that's why Twitter is brilliant, why LinkedIn is brilliant, why Facebook is less brilliant, but still a good channel to be able to share.
Still relevant.
It is still relevant. You just have to share, and people will pick it up, and you can start discussions on this, amazing piece of writing that you have written for your blog.
Yeah.
You can't just sit there and do nothing with it, unless you're just doing it because someone's told you have to do it and you don't understand why.
Well, I'd say it's a wasted opportunity for just beaming this content up to a site that no one goes to. Might as well share it.
Exactly. There's no point in it. Unless it's like, oh, now here we go, some techie thing. I mean, it could be like an SEO-loaded kind of content where people would sort of, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's outside of my capacity.
Fair enough too.
Yeah.
So, one last question I've got, which is from a tech world from which I live in, and you possibly have already said this because this is a tip-laden interview, which is fantastic. What is the one thing you say? If I had a brand new company and we had a product and a few clients and we said, and I came to you and I said, I want one tip that's good, that you can give me that will make a difference in my publicity. And it could be stop doing something or do something, just the one tip.
See, you've just asked a publicist to say one thing.
I have.
What planet are you on? Okay, one thing is plan. Write everything down that you're going to do. Don't fluff about. There's 3 things.
There you go. No.
See, she managed to get
I just can't do it.
Put it down to 3.
No, that's
I'm
cool.
really sorry.
So have a plan.
Have a plan.
Don't do what I did and Waveadept did, which is did something.
Yeah, if you have this whole knee-jerk reaction and go, right, today I'm just going to email these people, and then maybe in a month or so you might go, I haven't emailed them, but did I? I can't remember. I'll have a look through my emails. I can't find it. Did I do it? I'm going to do it again. And then you're going to get on this wonderful thing called a blacklist, and that's something else completely.
Awesome.
That's right, yeah.
Thank you. Now, where can people find you online?
Oh, everywhere. Okay, I have a website that I built. Now, I built it myself, so don't go on there and go, this is an awful piece of shit, because I did do it myself. Loudinpublic.co.nz. You can tweet me at LouDXX. Is that my Twitter handle? It is.
I see.
It is. Yeah. There's a story about that too, but we won't go into that.
You posted about it, haven't you?
Yeah, it's on my blog site.
There you go.
Yeah.
Go read the blog.
Go read the blog.
And one thing you want to pimp yourself? One thing you want to talk about?
What are you up to lately that you're allowed to talk about?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Oh, yes, okay, something I'm really excited about. So I've just come back from the UK and Ireland, and I had a brilliant time away, and I talked to quite a few people over there. And one thing that I have figured out is that my goal is to make PR and comms service in New Zealand as affordable and accessible as possible, especially for startups and growth businesses. So I have developed a new package, I suppose. I hate the word package, but anyway, I suppose that's what it is. It's a, how can I explain it? It just makes things easier for people to get publicity, get their comms in order, and to sort themselves out. And it's really, really cheap, which is so good. So if you're interested in that, I suppose come and talk to me, because I've only got about 3 or 4 spots left. So
that's
awesome.
very cool.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to pimp out.
It's not very articulate though. I haven't delivered that very well. Probably because it's so new, and I mean I know what it is, and you know.
Where can they find that? Have you got that on your site?
No, I want people to come talk to me. So you can ring me. You can email me, lou@loudandpublic.co.nz. You can ring me, go to my website and you'll get my mobile number there. And done.
That was awesome. Being from an agency background, I can understand where Lou's coming from. We apologise for the audio. We were in a supposed quiet cafe that just got progressively louder and busier as we chatted on.
Homework for you guys. Election special. As you know, we've booked in the tech reps from the 5 main political parties to give us time to explain their party's ICT policies. And we need your help with the questions. So go to the following short URL, which we will put in the show notes, and leave your questions on the form. Thanks, everyone. Right, the URL. Paper and pencil ready? It is GOO.gl/W, Don't worry, it's in the show notes. And thanks for everybody who's left their questions already. Some of them we can actually use.
Special shout out, thanks to Lou Draper, of course, for showing us some insights into how to communicate your tech story from a PR perspective.
And next week we have an interview with Owen Williams from Hoist. And he also writes all over the web. And if you're not on his weekly email, what's it called? Charged. If you're not on his weekly email, then you're missing out. But find out more next week.
And as always, don't take our wamble or jibber-jabber as gospel. Get all the links to the stories that we reference in our show notes. All the notes are found in one place. They're linked from our #MePodcast post when it goes live on Tuesdays, or simply Google Access Granted Show Notes.
You can look on Twitter for me at MiramarMike, and Raj is at NZRaj. Use our podcast hashtag, which is Access Granted, and email us on accessgranted@me.co.nz. And for all the hashtag goodness, such as the Twitter link, Facebook news, prizes, pages, articles, everything, go to #me.co.nz website.
Thanks for your time, and see you next Tuesday with the tech news for those who make the computers do what they do. Ka kite anō.
#me.co.nz